Hi, I'm Simon, a product manager on the platform team here at Facebook. At F8 in April 2014, we announced a number of changes to our platform to help improve the experiences people have with apps integrated with Facebook, as well as stability improvements for developers. In this video, we'll look at the new version of Facebook Login, cover how Login Review works, and give you all the information you need to upgrade your apps to the new Login and Graph API v2 before April 30th, 2015. We launched Facebook Login back in 2008, and since then it's grown to be one of the most popular social login choices in the world. There were over 10 billion Facebook logins in 2013, and it's now integrated with over 80% of the US's top 100 grossing iOS and Android apps. But we're constantly looking for ways to make our products better. So we interviewed over 100 people last year to ask how they felt about logging in with Facebook. While overall people were happy, 3 themes clearly cut through. Firstly, people wanted more clarity about when an app was going to publish back to Facebook. Second, they wanted more control over the information shared with apps. And lastly, they wanted apps to only ask for the permissions they actually needed. In order to make more people feel comfortable logging in with Facebook, we used their feedback to make updates to the product, starting with adding more clarity for people. So in 2012, we separated the dialogues for read and publish permissions. This made it really clear to people when an app was going to publish to Facebook. This small change had a really significant effect. We saw a 10% increase in conversion rates. This is great news for people logging into apps and developers alike. So next, we wanted to respond to the rest of the feedback, giving people more control over the data they share and ensuring apps only ask for the permissions they need. So at F8 in April 2014, we announced a new version of Facebook Login. The new Facebook Login is very similar to the previous version, but now allows people to control the information they share with apps. People can now tap the Edit the Info You Provide button, and the login dialog will list all the permissions your app is asking for. Here, people can opt out of any of the permissions your app is requesting, except for their public profile. With this, we've allowed people to have more control over the information they share with their apps. This new version of Login has been available since F8 for all apps. All apps created since April 30th, 2014 are already using the new Login and Graph API v2.0 or greater. But apps that were active before F8 have until April 30th, 2015 to upgrade to the new Login. On that date, all apps will be automatically upgraded to the new Login. The last concern people had was that apps ask for permissions that aren't necessary for the app to function. Here's the kind of thing people felt uncomfortable about. We've been running a review process for App Center and Open Graph for some time, so we've now extended this review process to cover Login as well. We've tried to make this Login review process as lightweight as possible, but informative enough to ensure positive experiences for users of your apps. During the Login review process, our review team actually uses your app on the web, iOS, or Android. Then they check the use of permissions to ensure they enhance people's in-app experiences. Lastly, they verify that your login experience works well on all platforms. To illustrate how simple the process is, let me walk you through the Login review process right now. To get started, go to your app's dashboard's Status and Review tab and click Start a Submission. In the next dialog, you'll be able to select the permissions you'd like to use. You can see a description of what each permission does, the information it gives access to, and some common uses. Once you've added your items to the review submission, take a few moments to write some notes which help our review team understand why you need this permission and the steps they should take when reviewing your app to see how it's being used. During Login Review, our review team actually uses your app. So, if you're an iOS or Android app, you can either upload an APK or an iOS simulator build, or if your app's already in the store, you can just tell us to download it from there. Now you're ready to submit for review. After we review your submission, you'll receive feedback from our review team letting you know that you've been approved, or an explanation of changes you may need to make. As you can see, it's a pretty simple process, and all aimed at ensuring apps are asking for the permissions they need to enhance a person's experience in your app. We're focused on ensuring a fast, accurate, and clear response to your review requests. While the turnaround time varies based on the demand and the permissions you submitted, you can expect a response in between 3 and 7 business days. Now that you're familiar with the login review interface, you're probably wondering whether or not you need to submit for login review at all. Firstly, you only need to submit for review if you're asking for permissions beyond the 3 basic permissions: public profile, user friends, and email. If your app only needs these permissions, you do not need to submit for login review. Next, because our review teams are actually using your app during the review process, you need to be able to freely build and test your app before you submit for review. This means that admins, developers, and testers of your app can grant any permission without going through review. In some cases, if your app is only ever designed to be used by the specific people with these 3 roles, then you also do not need to submit for review. A good example here is an app that publishes to a Facebook page when you write an article, say, on your blog. As the app is only likely to be used by the blog's administrators, as long as they're listed in the app's role section, you do not need to submit for review. Our goal with login review is a lightweight process to protect people from apps requesting permissions which don't enhance their experience. So let's look at the scenarios when you should resubmit for review. Do you have to submit for review every time you ship an updated binary to the App Store or Google Play? No, you don't have to submit for review each time you update your app. We want you to continue to iterate and improve your app without adding additional friction. What about when you launch a version of your app on a new platform? For example, when you bring your iOS app to Android. As long as your app isn't asking for any new Facebook permissions on this new platform, you do not need to submit for review. If we've reviewed your use of permissions on iOS and you're releasing an app on Android as well, you can use the permissions you've already been approved for. No need to submit for review again. However, if you're launching a brand new app, or if you want to use a new permission in an existing app, in both cases, you will need to submit for review. When you're building a new app or adding a permission to an existing app, we recommend submitting for review as early as possible in your app's development lifecycle, but only once the use of a permission is nearly fully baked. Given that our review team actually use your app as a real person would, it's important that they're able to see how that permission enhances the user experience. So how soon should you be submitting for review? If your app was active before F8, that's April 30th, 2014, login review will not come into effect until a year later, that's April 30th, 2015. However, after that date, only permissions which have been reviewed by Facebook will appear to people logging into your app. So for apps which were active before April 30th, 2014, we strongly recommend that you submit for review now. The outcome of the review won't take effect until April 30th, 2015, and you'll have plenty of time to react to any changes requested by our review team. In this video, we've covered the background to the new Facebook login and gone into some detail about the login review process. In the next video, I'll take you through the steps you need to go through to actually upgrade your app to Graph API v2 and the new Facebook login.